Okay. Good morning, ladies. Whoever slept,
Yeah.
good morning, and whoever didn't sleep. Definitely one of our brachos that we were machaving to today, Big Gadol, was Hanoisen la'ayef koach. Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us a lot of koach. Kadosh Baruch Hu should continue Oter Yisrael b'tifara. He should give us the ability to glorify ourselves and to be glorified in this world. And Be'ezus Hashem, we're really getting ready to greet Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu. So let's learn a little bit about going back to that era of Mashiach, right? The era of Mashiach is the era of Gan Eden. It's Olam Haba. It's all connected. It's all one of the same. And the Arizal HaKadosh teaches us that the Tikkun of Esther and all of the avodah of Esther and Esther herself, we're all tikkunim from Gan Eden. Esther is Chava. She is the Gilgal of Chava. We could even look at it in a very deep way that we have in Bereshis, and this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going back to Bereshis, looking at Chava, looking at Esther, seeing how Esther is the ultimate tikkun of Chava, and that Purim is the tikkun for Chet Adam Harishon on every level that there is. And it's the tikkun of Malchus, right? The sphera of Malchus, which is the sphera associated with women, which is the sphera, the path, the channel, which incorporates all the other channel and is the ultimate tikkun of the entire world. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world in order that we should be mamlichim, we should anoint him here in this world and to create for him a palace, that this entire world should actually be his palace, which is what Gan Eden was. Okay, so we're going to work through that, Bezrat Hashem. So Megillas Esther is not just a story, right? It constitutes a very deliberate and a theological inversion, v'nahafachu, of Bereshis, specifically Prakim, Beis, and Gimel, in which Esther represents the tikkun of Chava at the level of Malchus, which is on the one hand, the lowest level, on the other hand, the deepest level. And Purim inaugurates the restoration of Da'as within the exile. Da'as, knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is in the Eitz Hadas, within the exile through the principle of V'nahafachu. Everything is going to be upside down. So we're going to basically be doing 5 things today. We're going to explore the structural parallel between the Isser of the prohibition of eating from the Eitz Hadas and the very interesting decree of Achaz Dato, which is found in the Megillah.
Uh-oh.
Shushan Abira. What was the most important rule in Shushan Abira was you're not allowed to come to the king, right? You're not allowed to come to the king unless you were called. So the word da'at, knowledge, and da'at are structurally similar. They are not the same at all roots, okay? But they're very, very similar. And what we're trying to do here is and this is what Purim is all about. Purim is, as the Gemara tells us, chayev inish lemisube ad lo yada. A person is supposed to drink until they don't know the difference between blessed Mordechai and cursed Haman. Okay, that's very interesting. What does that mean? But let's understand something here. The purpose of Purim is to get to this place of lo yada, of not knowing, right? I don't know, of understanding that I don't know. When was that place of not knowing what's good and bad? That place of not knowing what's good and bad was before Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, right? That's the difference. So we're trying to go back to that place of pre-tree. We're trying to understand, to go back to what was the place of pre-tree. So the Rambam explains to us, before Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, everything was to them emes and sheker. What does that mean, emes and sheker? How do we understand that? So let's put that into our terms as we can understand it as post-tree people, as people who have never lived except for one time a year when we can live in the place of pre-tree. So if we're in post-tree, if we're in pre-tree, what's emes v'sheker? So let's say I have a nisayon, and the nisayon is that I need to provide for my family, right? My family doesn't have food, my family doesn't have money, I can't pay my bills. So if I'm a pre-tree person, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I need to pay my bills. So I have this Yetzer Hara to steal. Okay, I'm going to steal or I'm going to cheat the system in order to repay my bills. But why? I will immediately understand that that won't work. Why won't it work? It will never work. It will never work because I know MS is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives every person their parnasa, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving every person their parnasa. There is no way I could cheat, right? There is no cheating because if I take 20 shekels from the kupa when no one's looking, or I don't pay for something when no one's looking, and it costs 20 shekels, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take that 20 shekels away from me in another way. Okay? Because in the world of emes and sheker, it's so clear that everything happens only al pi Hashem. So that's, I understand very clearly, I can't cheat, right? There's no cheating the system of God. It's impossible. There's no cheating. So that brings me back to be able to make good choices. In the post-tree world, right? Oh, what's the post-tree world? The post-tree world is, well, I want something, that something must be good, right? Think of clothing, think of food, think of anything that we want to do. When we go shopping for shoes, right? And we say, oh, I want this pair of shoes. What do we say? This is a good pair of shoes. This is a good food. Now, it might not be a good food. It might be a food which is extremely harmful for us. And it might be shoes that are very expensive and are going to hurt our feet, or they're not appropriate for us. But when we use the words good and bad in post-tree, good is generally what we want to happen or what we want for ourselves. And bad is something which we don't want to happen, right? We can look at the world and say, oh, what happened yesterday in Beit Shemesh, this is bad, right? This is a bad thing, okay? So in post-tree world, that's how we perceive it. In pre-tree world, it's not what's bad or good, right? Everything is Hashem. Emes zulato, ein od milvado. Everything is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's nothing but a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So it's a very emes world. It's or emes or sheker, or it is or it isn't. So the difference between das with an aleph, the Eitz HaDas, is I'm determining what's going on here, right? I'm deciding what's good and what's bad. That was what happened. As soon as Adam and Chava ate from the tree, all of a sudden they realize they wake up, right? Oh my gosh, we're naked. We're afraid. We're ashamed, right? We're going to hide because this is good, this is not good. And that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu initially told them, don't eat from the tree, right? Because if you eat from the tree, what's going to happen? You're going to have this whole nother set of nisyonos that's so complicated and so broken and so difficult. But that's what we did. So that's what it is. So in Shushan, in the Megillah, we have achas dato. There's no place here for good or bad. This is what it is. It's emes or sheker. Emes and sheker. It is, if you come in front of the king and you're not called, you are going to be killed. That's just a fact. Good, bad, I don't know anything about good or bad. There's facts. There's facts and there's falsehood. So that's the first thing we're going to explore on a deeper level. The second thing is we're going to see something very interesting about today, the fast day of Esther. Esther says, Tzomu alai shlosha yamim. She says, fast for me 3 days. This is the direct opposite of what happens in Gan Eden, where Chava does 4 pu'ulot, 4 verbs, all in one pasuk. She sees, she touched, she took, she ate. No space between them. Esther comes and gives us a tremendous amount of space. Stop, think, okay? And we're also going to explore the transformation and the concealment from the shame which was experienced in Gan Eden to the strategy of Esther, right? We see in Gan Eden, Adam and Chava hide from HaKadosh Baruch Hu after they do their sin, okay? They're hidden. They're naked and they hide, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu clothes them. Well, in the Megillah, we have something very different. We have Achashverosh invites Vashti to come naked, right? To come naked before him wearing only the crown, right? I'm going to take you back to Gan Eden, right? Because Achashverosh here is playing God. We'll explore this on a deeper level. And then we have Esther, who's Vatilbash Esther Malchus. She dresses in Malchus, which when obviously the Megillah is saying Malchus, it doesn't just mean her royal robes. It means the mindset of Malchus. It means the mindset of containing all of the other spheres and connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the deepest way possible that a human being could, which is through Malchus, through the feminine, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vatilbash Esther Malchus, she wears the Malchus. She's completely enwrapped in connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the derech of Malchus, and she goes to do the forbidden thing. So Chava goes to do the forbidden act. She is naked. Esther goes to do the forbidden act. She is dressed, right? And that's after Vashti, who we'll talk about Vashti being her counterpart, is asked to come and asked to be shamed. Okay, and then the Ari HaKadosh explains how the Malchus in Golus is restored through Esther. And then we have the fifth point. We'll elaborate on these points shortly. The fifth point, which is, what are we doing today, right? What is our avodah of today, tonight, tomorrow? What is us as women? How are we going to make this Purim and use this Purim to reach levels of consciousness and tefillah and spread light, laihudim ha'isa'ira, as much as we can? Okay, so let's go back to the tree where it all starts. So this is always a discussion that we have, that it's very mind-boggling, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates this beautiful Gan, and it's called Gan Eden, right? Eden means time, right? Eternal. It's another word for eternal and for time. And we see that that's a very big theme also in Purim, right? What we say every time we talk about the victory of a Purim, we say, Lo yikamu lanitzach kol hachosim ba, that the victory of Purim is forever. The lashon in the Megillah is dor, right? Each generation is going to kimu v'kiblu, accepted upon themselves. So Gan Eden is permanent, right? It's something about above time. It's something which spans all time, and so is Purim. Okay, so the HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes this beautiful garden, and we see, by the way, once we're saying the word garden, Gan Eden, the word Ginat or Gan appears over and over and over again in the Megillah. All of the main events in the Megillah happen in Ginat, Bitan HaMelech, Ginat HaMelech. Always, Mordechai is in the Ginat HaMelech. The parties in the Ginat HaMelech. Achashverosh goes to take a breath in his Gina. Everything, the Mishtah of Esther takes place in the Gina. Everything is Gina, 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 because this is all a reference going back that this is very connected to Gan Eden. And here's the tikkun. So in Bereshis, Perek Beis Pasuk Yud Zayin, it says, "Ume'etz hadas tov v'ra lo yisoichal mimenu ki bayom achlecha mimenu mois tamos." Okay, so it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes this garden and he puts this amazing tree in the middle of the garden and says, "Don't eat, because the day you will eat from this tree, you will surely die." So we've discussed in different shiurim, why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu do that, right? If I'm making something delicious for Purim, for my shalach manas, I'm not going to put it on the table and tell everybody don't eat it. I'm going to take my cousin's advice, who said anything you make that you want to save, you take it, you put it in an opaque container, you write on it gefilte fish, and you put it in the back of the freezer and hope that no one touches it. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu put this tree in the middle of the garden and say, don't eat it, right? It sounds like almost like HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to eat it, which is another discussion that perhaps that is what happened and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did want us to eat from the tree. But on the level that I'd like to look at it now is that it's establishing roles here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, look, I'm God. You're amazing, right? You're these incredible creations, but you're not God. I'm God. This is my house. This is my world, and these are my rules. So you need to have this tree in the middle of the garden, see it all the time, and know that I am the king here. This is my dominion. Similar to Achashverosh's rule, right? You don't come to me, because why can't you come to the king? I call you, you don't call me. Right? I'm the king. This is my palace. This is my house. Achashverosh also thought it was his world. So the double formation of most Tammuz, you will surely die. The Maharal teaches us that this was actually in inevitability. It wasn't just a punishment. Okay, it wasn't just saying this is what's going to happen. Okay, and the Maharal writes, "Ki hamisahu chisaron hametzios kaasher ha'adam nivdol min Hashem yisbarach." Death is the diminishment of being that follows separation from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's how when the pasuk says you will be surely die, most Tammuz, it's saying you will surely experience a very, very significant, deep separation, which is death. Okay? So as we said, Megillas Esther has a very similar decree. Kol ish v'isha asher yavo el hamelech. This is from Perek Daled, the fourth Perek, Pasuk Yud Aleph, the 11th Pasuk. Kol ish v'isha asher yavo el hamelech asher lo yikre achas da'aso lamis. The phrase achas da'aso echoes the very singular prohibition that was on the tree. There's one tree, there's one decree, and they're both tied to death. Okay, so the symmetry is very precise. In Gan Eden, violation of the divine command introduces mortality into the existence of the world. And in Shushan, the violation of imperial decree risks mortality, and Esther's going to do that, but she's going to do it and she's going to risk it in order to preserve life, as opposed to Chava, who took from the tree, who brought mortality into existence. So it's reverse, okay? So this is going to fix the first axis of V'nahafachu. Okay, now let's look at the verbs, okay? We have in Bereshis Gimel Vav, it's all in, it's all compressed into one pasuk. Vatira ha'isha, vatikach, vatochal, vatiten. She sees, she takes, she eats, she gives, right? It's like we're moving so fast, and it's like everything is collapsing. All of this space of contemplation, of thought, of deliberation collapses. And the Maharal picks up on this, and the Maharal describes that when a person does a sin, that and it comes so quickly with no space, kasher ein ha'adam omed beseder ha'ra'ui lo, when a person doesn't omed, he doesn't stand in order, which is befitting to him, as huyotzei min hametzias, then he's actually removed from reality. The Maharal is telling us something incredible here. The Maharal is saying the following, and it's something to really contemplate, especially on Tanis Esther, because this is the day of contemplation. This is the space. We can't just go into Purim. We can't just go, just like Esther didn't just go into the king and ask for whatever she wanted, even though she knew it was right? There's this incredible space that we create on this day of Tanis Esther, the fast of Esther, where we say, wait a second, what am I really asking for? What do I really want? What do I really need? What does Am Yisrael need? Because don't forget, we're not Chalila only asking for ourselves. We're asking for all of Am Yisrael, for every single person in Am Yisrael. Esther didn't come to the king and say, you know what, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe, just the elite, maybe just my family, maybe just my tribe. It was all or nothing, right? Which is actually also another opposite, which I'd love to get into also, because it's the opposite of the thinking. It's the same, but two sides of a different coin of the thinking of Haman. Haman was kill everybody, right? Haman is an all or nothing guy. Yes, I'm the second to the king, and I mint the coins of the emperor, and I'm great, and everyone has to bow down to him. But if I'm not the top, if there's somebody who doesn't accept my authority, I'm nothing. So Esther has that same all or nothing mentality, but uses it in the place of Kedusha, that all of Klal Yisrael, we're all one, and it's going to be all of us or none of us. Okay, going back though, to what the topic that we're talking about now, the Maharal says that there's an order to things. And the minute that a person is confused, mivulbal, is not omed al haseder, is not thinking according to order, right? Is confusing wants and needs, is confusing Ratzon Hashem for my Ratzon, right? Somehow we are very good at this, right? We're professionals at this, that we could figure out how to adapt what we want to do, which is, this is going back to the sin of the Eitz Hadas. I'm going to go back to do what I want to do, and I'm going to try to fit in, what my morals are to what I really want to do. So I might have to adjust my arachim. I have to adjust different things. I have to think differently. All of these things, that is the sin of the Eitz Hadas. And the Maral is saying, look, that's what Chav is doing. Chav is seeing, taking, eating, and giving to Adam, all with no space. Tanis Esther is create that space, make that space, get your mind in order, get everything ordered, because if not, we're not going to be part of the Mitzias. And that's Esther's, which her whole movement, right? Her movement of tshuva begins with deliberate delay. Lech knos, go and gather, vitzomo alai, and fast for me, shloshas yamim, 3 days, right? So where Chava collapses time between perception and act, Esther inserts time before action. The inversion is exact, okay? And this is the second axis of an ahafachu that we're going to talk today, and there's hundreds of them, right? Every time I read the Megillah, open up the Megillah again and again, I see another one. Okay, now let's talk about concealment reversed, okay? So after the sin in Gan Eden in Perek Gimel Pasuk Chet, it says Vayitchabeh ha'adam, and Adam concealed himself. Okay, this is the first time man is concealing himself from the divine presence, and the concept of man concealing himself from the divine presence is actually absurd, right? You can't hide from Hashem. Who could hide from Hashem? So pre-tree man, who only knew emes and sheker, knew that you can't hide from Hashem. Post-tree is now, wait a second, but there's das. Well, maybe I could hide from Hashem. There's that struggle that maybe I could actually play God and be God, okay? So now, interesting enough, what is Esther's name? Esther's name is concealment, right? And where do we see Esther's name from the Torah? Esther minayin min ha-Torah. So the Gemara Maseches Chulin daf kuf lamed tes amud beis tells us v'hanoichi haster aster panai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, on that day I will hide myself from you. And that's a hint to the error of Esther and to Esther herself. So in Gan Eden, who hides? Man hides from God. In the story of Esther, who's hiding? God is hiding from man. God is saying, I'm going to conceal myself and you're going to have to find me. In Gan Eden, you hid yourself and I found you. Now you do that tikkun and you come and you find me. Okay? So here, concealment is not coming from shame, right? But it's coming from strategy. Okay? Now, to me, this is completely fascinating, right? Okay, so the Zohar HaKadosh describes Malchus in exile, that the Midah of Malchus, the Tzinor, the pipeline of Malchus, the Sphira of Malchus, however you want to describe it, this aspect of the Kadosh Baruch Hu of Malchus in the Gullus is hidden, but it's present. And the Zohar specifically says, Malchusa iya shchinata the iskasya begalusa. It is concealed in the Golus. That's the whole point of the Zohar, is to reveal the Malchus, right? Is to reveal this aspect of Kodesh Baruch Hu within the Golus and to take us out of the Golus by revealing it. So Malchus is the term which we use to classify the Shechina, which is concealed in the exile. So Chava's concealment, her hiding from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Adam's, right? But we're focusing on the woman. Her hiding from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is me saying, I can't hide from Hashem, right? Which really, if we want to think about it on a very deep level, they were probably more hiding from themselves or trying to hide from themselves. Because obviously they knew you can't hide from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even when HaKadosh Baruch Hu finds them, they're still trying to hide. So mostly when we're not trying to hide from God, we're trying to hide from ourselves. We're trying to hide from the Chelek Elokai, the Neshama, the Nishma, the pulse of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which beats through us because we are ashamed, okay? We are ashamed. So Chava's concealment reflects rupture, that death that the Maharal spoke about, that separation from consciousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Esther's concealment reflects covenant. And there's a minhag to say Perek Chav Beis, the 22nd chapter of Tehillim, today on Tanis Esther and also on Purim and Shushan Purim. This Perek starts out, and it's attributed to Esther Hamalka. Keli, Keli, lama azavtani. And the Medrash says that these words, Keli, Keli, my God, why have you abandoned me? That these words were actually said when Esther Hamalka was walking towards Achashverosh. She's walking towards Achashverosh, and what's happening? So there's two things which are happening, the Medrash tells us. Number one is that she feels the tumah, the impurity of all the idols that are in Achashverosh's palace starting to seep into her soul, right? She's feeling this horrible negative energy of idol worship in her soul. That's number one. Number two, she is being attacked by swords, by the guards of Achashverosh who are attempting to kill her. Now, let me remind you, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu exiled is not a nice word, exiled Adam and Chava outside of Gan Eden, how did he make sure they didn't just do a U-turn and go back in? He put a revolving sword of fire to block the entrance of Gan Eden. So when Esther is walking towards Achashverosh and she feels that she's starting to absorb the negative energies of the idols, and she's being physically attacked. So she's being spiritually attacked, she's being physically attacked by the guards of Achashverosh. What does she say? Keli, Keli, lama azavtani. She, in essence, is saying the same thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Adam and Chava, Ayeka, where are you? Where are you? Ayeka. So she's calling out Keli, Keli, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu called Ayeka. Where are you? So this is the complete reverse. So Esther's, as Chava's concealment reflects rupture, separation, a loss of consciousness, Esther's concealment reflects seeking, looking, reconnecting, finding, discovery. Okay, now let's move to the fourth idea. Okay, so the Eitz Chaim tells us in Shar HaMalchus, that based, of course, on the teachings of the Arizal, that Malchus is the final vessel through which the divine koichos, energies, enter the world. Now, when it's misaligned, concealment intensifies. And that's what we feel in the Gullus, right? It's not aligned. Now, what does it mean to be aligned, right? What does it mean that Malchus should be aligned? Malchus, again, it's the lowest sphera, it's the deepest sphera. It incorporates all the others. It's the kli, it's the vessel, right? Which gives us the ability to be able, for us to be a kli, for me to be a vessel for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's glory in this world. I need to recognize and be very conscious of Malchus, which is the vessel which allows me in my small mind, in my small place, to be able to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to contain and to have consciousness of all of the spheres going all the way to Keser or Chochmah, all the way up the ladder, to the highest level of consciousness. Now, Purim is a holiday which we don't have forbidden malacha, right? We're allowed to do work, we're allowed to cook, we're allowed to drive, we're allowed to take pictures, we're allowed to do everything, right? There's no prohibition of do not do on Purim. Okay, we have 4 mitzvahs that we do, and you could fulfill these 4 mitzvahs in a very short amount of time, right? You within 2 hours, 1 hour at night, 1 hour in the morning, or I've been to Megillah readings of 30 minutes, and I'm sure many places this year are going to do Megillah readings as fast as possible, okay? As fast as possible in order to get everybody home and safe, especially if there's not enough space in the miklat, etc. So you could read the Megillah hear the Megillah in half an hour. You could give tzedakah, 2 mishlochei manot, and 2 mishlochei manot, and mishte, wash and bench, all within an hour. Okay, all within an hour. 1 hour at night, for half an hour at night, and 1 hour in the morning. When you daven, you say Alanisim another 30 seconds. Because Malchus, Purim is a yontiv, a holiday of Malchus. right? And the holiday of Malchus is coming to teach us that through being a kli, absorb everything, every act, everything you could do. Everything is at your fingertips. It's your choice. Malchus has to come from a place of choice, of how you are going to utilize this day. So Chazal gave us some very small guidelines, and the rest is up to us. What are we going to do? What am I going to do? So going back to the teachings of the Eitz Chaim and the Ari HaKadosh, in Shar HaGilgulim, in the Hagdama, the Arizal describes that recurring soul roots that return to repair prior fractures, which is all of us, right? We're all here to repair prior fractures. So Esther is a Gilgul of Chava. And perhaps, and this is my thought, I did not see this in the Arizal HaKadosh, but what I was thinking of is, in Bereshis, the Ari HaKadosh describes that there's two Chavas. There's Chava 1 and Chava 2. Chava 1 is Chava when Adam and Chava were created, and they're back to back. And then there is what we call Nisur, the separation. And then now, afterwards, there's Chava 2, Ezer Kenegdo, facing Panim el Panim, where they face to face, okay? They can look at each other. And of course, that's the goal of the world. The goal of the world is that we come into this world and not being able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu Panim el Panim. We do the Nisur, we do the separation, we do the hard work, and that brings us to a place where we are able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu Panim el Panim, right? That's our goal. Our goal is to be able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the highest consciousness possible for a human being to see. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us relationships so that we could understand that and we could develop that. So we have Chava 1 and we have Chava 2. Well, in the Megillah, where we call Hamelech, and we know every time Hamelech is written in the Megillah, it's a remez to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's one wife and there's a second wife. There's Vashti, right? There's Vashti, who wasn't able to look panim el panim with her husband. She's on a totally different page. No work is being done between Achashverosh and Vashti, okay? And so Vashti ends up disappearing, right? To put it nicely. She gets hung on the tree, again, of course, on a tree. As opposed to Esther, who represents, to me at least, again, this is my idea, this could be completely wrong, that she represents Chava the second, right? Who is this able to be panim el panim, who's able to seek out HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, who's able to see Hashem, who's able to do the hard work, right? That's what we said, she takes the 3 days. I'm going to do this work. I'm going to make sure that when I go into Achashverosh, I'm not talking to Achashverosh, I'm talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to bring myself back to the place where Chava and Adam were before they ate from the tree, where everything was emes and sheker and crystal clear, that this gezerah is not in the hands of Achashverosh, it's in the hands of Hashem. When I'm talking to the king right now, I'm not talking to the king, al basar v'dam, I'm talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm asking him to save the people, okay? So going back to that, the Malchus has to be parallel. We cannot take it and use it for other things. We have to use the Kalim, and especially the Kli of Malchus, in order to connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu and be in sync with the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so Esther represents Malchus realigned through her Mesiras Nefesh when she says "Kasher avadati avadati" in Perek Daled Pasuk Tez Zayin. When Esther says this, I understand that if I go to the king and he says no, then I'm doomed, right? Kasher avadati avadati, I'm lost. Okay, I am lost, but I am willing to sacrifice myself. I am willing to sacrifice myself no matter what, because I am aligned. And that's how she aligns herself, by understanding that it's all in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands and acting with alignment to the Ratzon Hashem and seeking consciousness of Hashem. Whereas in Gan Eden, Chava, who also represents Malchus, right? her whole goal of eating from the Eitz Hadas was to act independently, right? Was to separate herself, was to have now this idea that I would earn my keep, right? We would please HaKadosh Baruch Hu even more if we would be able to choose and choose correctly. Where Esther is saying, I'm not even choosing, right? I'm doing Hashem what you said because this is what should be done, not because of any of my ideas or agendas, okay? So here, Esther is surrendering. Kasher avadati. That's a tremendous step towards surrendering, as opposed to Chava, who was trying to seize the moment, right? And trying to say, okay, I'm going to take something. I'm going to take upon myself these decisions. Okay, so now let's go and let's start making things connect on an even deeper level, okay? So as we said before, there's a eternity towards Purim. And in fact, the Gemara tells us that in the Asid Lavo, in the future, all Yamim Tovim are going to actually be canceled, right? When Mashiach comes, we're not going to make Pesach the way we know Pesach now, right? Maybe there'll be no cleaning. We're not, different things. I don't know, maybe we won't eat cheesecake on Shavuos. I don't know, right? But all the Yamim Tovim are not going to be the same like they are, except for Purim. Purim is forever. And this is reflected in the Megillah, in Perek Tes, Pasuk Chav Ches. It says, "V'yamim ha'ele lo ya'avru mitoich ha'Yehudim." And these days, I'm skipping some words here, will never leave the soul, will never leave the calendar, will never leave the essence of the Jews. And the Gemara in Yerushalmi, Megillah tells us, all of the future, in the future, like I said before, all of the Yom Tovim are going to be mivutal, canceled. I don't know if that means completely canceled, like I said, or we're just going to celebrate them differently, but Purim not. Why? Because Purim represents not a nes galui, not an overt miracle, but the hidden providence of us saying, Hashem, we are going to find you. We are going to find you. You're hidden from us. Your Malchus is hidden from us, but we're going to find you. We're going to find you in everyday things. We are going to find you in our decisions. We are going to find you. We are going to find you in our choices that we make. This is Malchus, and this is Purim. So Purim, we have a lot of decisions to make. Today and tomorrow too. A lot of decisions to make. And those decisions are decisions that are going to determine who we are, how much Shechina we're going to be able to reveal in the world. Because that's really our mission in everything we do, is to be Megale Kovot Shamayim, is to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here. So that seeking is never going to stop. That's saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? We're playing hide and seek with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hiding right now. In Gan Eden we hid. Now it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's turn, Kaviyachol. And now HaKadosh Baruch Hu's here. We have to bring him out. We've had many, many, many days of this incredible paradox of concealment and of revelation. Where on the one hand, right, we started this war, Simchas Torah, Tafshin Pei Dalid, and we're still in this war. And there's been days of tremendous concealment where we've screamed, Keli, Keli, Lama Azavtani. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why have you abandoned me? And then there's been tremendous days of La Yehudim Haisa Oira V'Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar. And sometimes they were the same day, and sometimes they were within the same minute. And this is the message in one of our avodas. We have a lot of avodas of Purim, is to work on revelation, to work on seeing that light. Sometimes when there's too much light, we're blinded to it. We are living miracles, mamish miracles on a minute-to-minute basis, on a second-to-second basis. And we have to see that. We have to see Yad Hashem in everything. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are living in Ananei HaKavod. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed clouds upon us and is protecting us and has protected us. We don't even know how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu has protected us. We can't even fathom how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu has protected us. We don't know. That's why it says in Hallel, Hallelu Hashem Kol Goyim. All of the nations, they'll praise Hashem. Why are they praising Hashem? Because they know how much they tried to annihilate us, lahashmid, laharogu, la'abed, to completely destroy, but yet here we are. Here we are. Here, Baruch Hashem, here we are. Chaste Hashem, here we are. So we are literally like walking through the splitting of the sea, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us from the arrows behind us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us from the elements. And we're kind of, wow, these are nice trees. That's a cute fish, right? That's amazing. But we have to have that consciousness of Zeh Keli Ve'anvehu. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeh Keli. Everyone pointed. They pointed. The Shivcha Al Hayam, a person who was a spiritual maidservant, was able to point and say, Zeh Keli V'anvehu. This is what we want to do also. We want to say, Zeh Keli V'anvehu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is you. So, this is the restoration of Malchus. Within the exile is not going to be temporary. It's eternal. So, Gan Eden represented open divine presence. It was clear. Purim represents the mature recognition with no concealment. Okay, so let's just recap up until now. We have one tree, we have one decree. We have impulsive ingestion, we have deliberate fasting. We have naked shame, we had royal garments. We have human hiding, we have divine hiddenness. We have tree of sin. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. We have tree of sin and we have tree of justice, right? The Eitz Hadas was the tree that Adam and Chava sinned from. And of course, who gets hung on the tree? Haman and his 10 sons. The tree becomes a form, a technology of, instead of sin, it now is tzedek. It's justice. In Gan Eden, we have death entering. In the story of Esther, we have death confronted and life of the Jews spared. Gan Eden was lost, and Adam and Chava were sent into exile. And in the story of Purim, within the exile, the Shem Hashem was Mikudash. Klal Yisrael made a huge Kiddush Hashem, and the name of Hashem, to the point where there were so many misyahadim, so many converts, because the consciousness of Hashem was raised significantly. So Esther is mitaken, Esther fixes, she rectifies everything that went wrong with Chava. And this is the restoration of Malchus, okay? So now we're going to move and go in more detail. That was like the main structure. Now let's go even more detailed, okay? So as we said before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu planted the tree in the middle of the garden. Vayita Hashem Elokim gan be'eden mikedem. It says in Bereshis Perek Beis, Pasuk Chet. You know, maybe I should stop. Maybe there's questions until now. Does anyone want to ask a question? Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, so I just want to make sure. Here, what's pre-tree and post-tree? Pre-tree is before Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, that they thought in ways of emes and sheker. Post-tree of true and false. Post-tree is humanity, now, us included. We don't think of things as true or false. We think of things as good or bad. And with good or bad, there's a lot of opinion of what's good and what's bad. Okay, any other questions? What are the two dots? That's important. I'll write it. Da'at, let me write it in the chat. Dot with an aleph, that's the Eitz Hadat. That's the tree of knowledge. Okay, dot here means knowledge. Dot without the ayin, that means religion or rule. It's a very, very this is what it is. There's no opinion here, there's no knowledge. This is what it is. It's like a fact. Okay? This is the law. This is the religion. This is what it has. So, achas dato, written like this, achas dato, that is what it says in the Megillah. That's what the rule in Achashverosh's palace was, right? You cannot come to him unless you were called. Okay? Yofi. We'll move on then if there's no other questions. So, So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vayita Hashem Elokim Gan Be'eden Mikedem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu plants in the garden, planting, right? The concept of planting, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything in with, it's nothing to him, right? But for us, it's teaching us that the idea of Vayita, planting, implies intention, design, cultivation. This is not a wilderness, right? This is not just vast empty space. This is a structured space. Okay, and in this Gan Eden, there's two trees of great significance. There's the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, and there's the Eitz HaDas, Tov v'Ra, and there's the tree of knowledge, good and evil. Okay, so the presence of these two trees establishes a structure, right? We have here now, this is going to be, as the Maharal said, right? There's a Seder, there's an order here, okay? There's a spiritual structure of existence. Vitality is the Eitz HaChaim, okay? That's the pulse. And consciousness, which is the Eitz HaDas, okay? So there's this, in Gan Eden, there's this tension around the Eitz HaDas, okay? And there's this tension with that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, we're going to solve this tension with one single prohibition, which is lo soichal, don't eat it. Mois tamus, you will surely die. So as we said before, right, going back to the Maharal, the hamisa hi chisaron hametzius. What is death? Death is a diminishment of understanding reality. So a person is lost, is separated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay? That is death. Death is diminishment of being. So think about it, sleep, Chazal tell us, is 1/60th of death. Why would sleep be 1/60th of death? Because when a person is sleeping, they're not conscious of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They cannot exercise their das. They cannot exercise their mind. So in Gan Eden, there's perfect alignment, okay? There's perfect alignment between the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, understanding HaKadosh Baruch Hu, consciousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's perfect alignment, and it stands with perfect alignment of the divine structure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up, planted the garden, and gave the world this structure, okay? So the phrase, Eitz Hadas Tov v'Ra, it demands careful attention. Das, when the Torah talks about das, it's not intellectual abstraction, right? It's more of an integrative knowledge. The root yada implies a union. As we see, when the Torah wants to tell us that Adam and Chava had relations, in Bereshis Dalet Aleph, what does it say? The Adam yada es Chava. Adam knew, right? It's a relational knowledge. Right? It's not cognition alone. It's experiential. It's overtaking. That's how the Torah describes intimacy with the word yada. So let's plug that back into Eitz Hadas Tov v'Ra. Thus, the das, right, the knowledge that we're talking about, right, in Eden represents the capacity to integrate opposites, good and evil, within consciousness. Meaning, I can, once Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, now I'm Yoda, I know, okay? Just like the Adam Yoda es Chava, that Adam and Chava integrated, they became one, they became enmeshed, if we want to use that word, in their relationship, when they're having intimacy, which maybe in intimacy that's a good thing, but in Tov v'Ra, it's a problem, okay? So the prohibition of not eating the tree is not against knowledge, but rather it's against the premature ingestion of this integrative polarity of being intimate with Tov and Ra at the same time, experiencing them at the same time. So the Zohar explains that the tree of knowledge contains this mixture. Eitz Hadas Tov v'Ra, the Zohar says, Ihu Kalil Mikol Sitrin. The tree of knowledge includes all sides, right? The sitra, the achwa, the other side, we call it the opposite side, the opposite of kedusha, the unholy side. So the tree represents this incredible complexity, okay? And everything around the tree in Gan Eden Pre-tree, pre-eating from the tree, okay, is ordered simplicity. So what Adam and Chava do when they're eating from the tree, and specifically Chava, who initiated that, is that she is now, and afterwards Adam also, they're now introducing these experiential polarities into the soul of a person, and that requires tremendous spiritual maturity. In other words, they're going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim without first even going into the Mishkan, without being a Kohen, without being a Kohen Gadol. Forget about being Kohen Gadol, right? It's going so backwards in that. So it's what Adam and Chava have now, before they were mature and ready for it, have ingested this, could call it maybe a potion, which they can't handle. Okay, so it's the vision now is so detached from the truth that it becomes complete distortion. And this is how Klal Yisrael were, in a sense, behaving right before the decree of Haman. If we think about it, it's so hard to understand, right? How could it be that the Jews went to a party celebrating that the Beis HaMikdash would never be built again, right? That was the party that Achashverosh made. And yeah, it had a lot of hechsherim there. If you wanted badatz eda charedis, you could get badatz eda charedis. It was like those bags of lettuce, right, with 10 hechsherim on it, right? Okay, so you have with 10 hechsherim on it, you have all that, that's what was available then, okay? That's what was available then. So you have this, and they're going to celebrate. That is a complete disalignment from anything holy. To celebrate that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, the miscalculation, right, of Achashverosh and Haman, that the 70 years were up, it was prophesied that they would rebuild the temple within 70 years. They miscalculated, 70 years are up, let's party. And Jewish people came. Mordechai said, don't go, right? Could you imagine? Do you imagine somebody celebrating a celebration of the accomplishments of Hamas on the Shvi October? We would think they're crazy. Of course, nobody would do that, but we did it, right? We did it. How did we do it? That's a good question. So that goes back to the Eitz Hadas. How does a person become so disaligned with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How does a person become so removed? And the answer is that we all know how because we all do it sometimes. Maybe we don't do it on a certain public scale. Maybe we don't do it there, but we very often could figure out how to give ourselves a chanina. I can't remember how to say that in English now. What chanina is? Somebody help me. What's chanina?
Permission?
I'm sorry. What?
Permission?
No, it's when a criminal is off
the hook. It's amnesty.
Amnesty, right? There's another word for it too, but that's the beginning. Amnesty.
Pardon.
Say it again.
Pardon.
A pardon.
Someone receives a pardon.
A pardon. Amnesty or a pardon. So I forgot what I was even saying. Okay. We give ourselves a pardon for doing all kinds of things, right? We could hurt somebody, well, because we need to expose the truth. Or we have all these, the people, I mean, trust me, I see in my line of work, you cannot imagine the great excuses people have for doing horrible, evil things to other people because they have this whole, very advanced system. They have ingested knowledge, spiritual knowledge, experiential knowledge, without being able to be mature enough to process that knowledge. And so we do this too. Right? I mean, one of my favorite examples of this is the shopping carts at all the supermarkets, right? So there's signs everywhere. You are not allowed to take those shopping carts home. Yet, somehow, people who are extremely, extremely religious, right? Very, very pious people will end up taking those shopping carts home, which is stealing. It's still, but they overcharged me for this, and they don't really care, and they want me to come back, and I'll bring it back tomorrow. And we can have all of these great ideas in our head. But at the end of the day, we're completely disaligned from the Ratzon Hashem. Completely disaligned. So Purim is the realignment of Malchus. Purim is when, instead of what Chava did, which was to take this, seize, so to speak, seize this knowledge, we are going to be submissive. And we are going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ad Delo Yada, I have no clue. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, one thing I know, I want you. And I want to end with a story that you all know, right? The story of the couple who comes to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And they come to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and they say, we're married for 10 years and we haven't had children. And in the times of Chazal, we kept the halacha. We do not keep this halacha today for various reasons, which is beyond the scope of this conversation. But there is a halacha that if a couple is married for 10 years and they don't have children, they should divorce and try their mazel with another spouse. And maybe if they remarry another person, they'll be zoicha to have children. They're married for 10 years. They love each other. They have great shalom bayis. They go to Rabbi Shimon, Bar Yochai, and they ask Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what should we do? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, you know what you should do? You have to get divorced. But, just like you got married with a party and drinks and a mishteh and a band and invitations, that's how you should get divorced. It's an interesting psak, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tells you to do something, you do it. So the night before the Sidur Haget, they make a big party in the house, right? And she's there, they're there. I don't know exactly what they wrote on the invitations, right, to the party. I don't know exactly if, they had a first dance, second dance, how they broke it down, who paid for the flop. I have no idea, but they had a party. And the mister got a little bit tipsy at this party. And at one point he calls over his wife, he's divorcing tomorrow, who he loves very much. And he says to her, you're going back to your father's house tonight. You can take whatever you want from my house. Take whatever you want. And the party continues. He passes out at a certain point, and he wakes up the next morning, and he's in his father-in-law's house. And he's like, what am I doing here? I thought at least one good thing was going to come out of this divorce, right? I get rid of my father-in-law, okay? What am I doing here? And she says to him, you told me that I could take anything I want from the house. And the only thing that I want from your house is you. So here you are. So they said, we can't get divorced. They went back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they said to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai what happened. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai blessed them. They should have a child, and they had a child that year. So it's a beautiful story about love and about devotion. But the question of the story is, if Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had the koyach to bench them, to bless them with a child, why didn't he do it lechatchila when they first came to him? Why did he have them have this divorce party, right? And the answer is very clear, I think, to all of us, that they only realized how much and how deep and how aligned they were, their love was, and their alignment for one another, and their need for one another, until they were mamish at the edge of separation. And this is Purim. Purim, and this is what we're living through right now. We have no idea what's going on, right? We have no idea. I think I picked the wrong costume this year for Purim. This year I'm dressing up as Rivka. I have a huge blow-up camel. I have my pitcher of water, and I have my scarf, right? It's not a real camel, it's a blow-up camel. Although in the past, when I dressed up as Rechov HaPalmach, I did have a live sheep. But my kids are not so, they're not so okay with the live sheep anymore. So, but I should have been Miriam, right, with the tambourines, because we are so living in the times of complete geula. And we just need that consciousness to see it, to hang on just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. And that's, if we want, it says, Kol hapoishet yad, anyone who stretches out their hand, and Purim noisnim lo, what we ask for, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. So we all have to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what we want? We could ask for health, we could ask for nachat, we could ask for security, we could ask for parnasa, we could ask for whatever we want. You know what I'm asking for, Hashem? You! Because that's all we want, is you, Hashem. So your HaKadosh Baruch Hu is opening up his storage house, and we have to be Esther. We say, you know what we want, Hashem? We want you, Hamelech. We want you to come and live with us and know it. No more hiding, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The masks are over. I'm not going to hide from you anymore. You're not going to hide from me anymore. You're giving me one chance. I'm going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You know what my wish is? My wish is you, Hashem. That's it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu should grant us LaYehudim Haisa Oira v'Simcha v'Sason v'Yikar l'Geula Shlema. Mamash, any second, right? The next Azakah be'ezrat Hashem is going to be the shofar of Mashiach, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody should make an app for when Mashiach is first spotted, right? When Tchias HaMesim happens, who's going to be rectified first? Here, just spotted, Avram Avinu has come back, right? These are the type of apps we need to be developing, be'ezrat Hashem. I just want to mention today is Tanis Esther, is a very Indian to give tzedakah, machzis hashekel. I am raising money for two very, very important tzedakos. One is an incredible chayal, a soldier who's in my son's brigade. Well, he was until my son got transferred on Shabbos to someplace else. The first one, it's a link, I put it in the chat. He's a chayal. It was abandoned by his father at age 2. His mother, who's a French Ola, raised him amazing. This child, he learned when he was in yeshiva. He had leukemia. He recovered from leukemia, Baruch Hashem, and they didn't want to take him into the army. He fought to get into the army. He's in Shirion. He's a tank in the tank brigade. He is 25. He's Bezrat Hashem getting married in June, and he has literally nothing. When I mean nothing, I mean nothing. He supports his mother. He helps her. She's not so well. And my son went to the house. He's like, they live in mamish poverty, and I'd like to help him. Bezrat Hashem, he should start a Bais Neman B'Yisrael. He's given so much to us. We like to give back to him. The second is a link of an incredible woman who is in Aguna. Her husband is refusing to give her a get for quite a while right now, and I don't even want to get into the story. A very sad story, and she needs a lot of funding and help to be able to support her children and herself through this incredibly difficult process. Everyone should have yeshuos and brachos, and we should hear only besurot tovot. And we're going to have a great Purim. We're going to have an amazing, amazing, amazing Purim. We are literally re-experiencing Purim. Right? I'm sure you saw all those things with the 10, Haman and his 10 sons, right? The names of all the people who Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has delivered our enemies into the hands of our chayalim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is helping us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is putting upon us his ananei hakavod, besurot tovot, chag purim v'sameach, and all the best.
Amen. Thank you so much. It was beautiful.
Thank you very much. That's very beautiful.
Thank you.
Recording will be available.
Wow.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you, and you too. Thank you.
Thank you.